Hey everyone, it's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another video. This morning, I want to look at the chart of the supposed richest man in the world, Elon Musk. I don't think he's actually the richest man in the world. They just have these lists for kind of fun because the truly richest people in the world aren't on the list. And I know that because they just aren't anywhere on the list. You know, the Saudi royals, the British royals, the Rothschilds, things like that. So anyway, he's definitely a rich man. He's well known. He's in the news a lot. He tweets. He's got all these companies and blah blah blah. I don't think he's a great guy. I don't think he's a terrible guy. He's but he's an interesting character, and I think he's worth looking at. So let's get into it. Share my screen. Okay. So Elon Musk. Born June 28th, 1971, 6:30 a.m. Pretoria, South Africa. All right. Let's see here. So he's got his sun and Mercury in Cancer in the first house by quadrant. It's always tricky when you have the angles at especially the ascendant at the final degrees of the sign, because then the whole first house by quadrant will be a different sign. But then if you look at whole sign house, which I like to do as well, because I think they both provide information. In fact, I know they do. Then you're getting a totally different picture. Like by whole sign, it would be Gemini. By quadrant, it would be Cancer. And they're both influencing his ascendant in his first house. So you kind of got to be flexible. And as a Gemini, I'm very adept at flexible thinking. Also, my moon is Virgo, so Virgo is mutable as well. So I have a strong ability to see things in multiple ways, but more fixed type people will just want to like stick to one thing and that's it. That's one of the advantages of mutable signs. Being able to, especially Gemini, being able to see things in more than one angle. In fact, I need to, as a Gemini, I just need to see things from different angles, different sides, different perspectives. That's how I get my unique multiple Gemini perspective. Anyway, so Sun and Mercury are in the first house by quadrant. And that's very obvious. I mean, it's not just, you could be like, well, of course, he's the richest man in the world. He's not the richest man, but he's one of the richest men in the world. Anyway, he's rich. But like, take Jeff Bezos, for example. And I was thinking about this. Jeff Bezos is also a very rich man. And so is Bill Gates. Bill Gates is much more in the news than Jeff Bezos. But Elon Musk is also in the news. But people hate Bill Gates because he's a psychopath, he's a psycho killer, like the David Byrne song. I won't sing it for you, but, he's basically a psychopath that wants to kill, all the people, like 90% of the people in the world through vaccines. And Jeff Bezos is just like, he's in the background, right? And then you have other, like Richard Branson, who's also just in the background. Like nobody's paying that much attention to him. Elon Musk is everywhere, right? He's all up in the news. His tweets get so much attention, right? And it's not like this. We don't hate Elon Musk. He's not like this evil, hateable character. He's not great, like I said. Like he wants to put microchips in our brain, and he digs tunnels for the elites to for their underground bunkers. But we don't hate him, right? Here's why. Sun in the first house, also Mercury. Sun in the first house is it's going to be very charismatic in a way. Like their sun, their brightness. Sun rules Leo, so it's like all their sunshine is like right up front, right? He hosted SNL. Like we don't see Jeff Bezos. I don't think Jeff Bezos hosted SNL, and I probably wouldn't want to see that. Jeff Bezos is not a very, I'm sure Jeff Bezos does not have a sun in the first house, right? Or Venus, right? You know, and by whole sign house, Venus is in the first, right? It's not that far. It's 10 degrees from the ascendant. If we're taking this ascendant to be accurate, that's always the thing. You're never sure. Is the ascendant fully accurate? We don't know. But I have no other information to go by. But so Venus also is influencing the ascendant, Venus in Gemini. Venus in Gemini is very likable, by the way, because I have my Venus in Gemini. So Venus in Gemini are really like the social butterflies of the zodiac, because Venus is that feminine, fun, loving, beauty, aesthetics, creativity, joy. And Venus in Gemini is sort of like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. Oh, I love that. Oh, look how beautiful this is. Oh, that's awesome. Oh. It's, it's like, imagine, like a butterfly would be like, oh, look at this. Oh, look at that. That's Venus in Gemini. I'm telling you, because I have Venus, I'm like that. I'm like, ooh. Interest is everywhere. And because of that, they're actually very interesting people. Like, people really like Venus in Gemini. So highly flirtatious, Venus and Gemini. They just want to flirt with everyone. They like everyone. There's other factors, of course. I mean, I don't like everyone. But we won't get into that. But you got to take other factors. But the Venus and Gemini alone part, they like everyone. They're interested in everyone for about 5 minutes, and then they're on to the next thing. But it makes them very interesting, very likable, fascinating type people. Very enjoyable, very appealing upon first glance, right? Immediately likable. Venus and Gemini, immediately likable, right? They don't take time. The Gemini is not the thing that takes time to enjoy. It's like you meet a Gemini, whatever, and it's like instantly you're having fun. It may not last long, but instantly you're having fun and you're enjoying yourself, right? And then they're gone. So, but that makes him likable, all these things. And we get this Cancer sort of vibe from him. I mean, Cancer Sun, Cancer Mercury. This feeling like it's a certain kind of softness Cancer has. Softness, watery, like care, tender, nourishing quality. Makes him very likable, very soft. Like, he's got this kind of rounded features to him, this softness. Sun conjunct Mercury is also very intellectual, and it depends how close Sun and Mercury are, how combust Mercury is. Mercury can withstand a good deal of heat from the Sun, meaning that it retains integrity much better than other planets, especially Venus, which I have my Sun conjunct Venus by 4 degrees, and it's a difficult aspect. Because the Venus gets burnt. But the Mercury's not getting that burnt. And Mercury in the first house is actually very good. It has a lot of dignity in the first house. It's Mercury in the first is the speed of Mercury, because Mercury is moving so fast around the sun. It's the fastest moving planet, besides the moon. It really likes being in the ascendant because it gets to express itself very quickly, very much on the surface. So it's very witty, very fast moving, it's just Mercury in the first house is just very intellectual and really they're just witty and fast-paced, fast mind that can express itself very well and easily. Mercury loves that, right? So that's quite strong. That's quite good. There's other things which I'll get to. Other factors. I'm gonna, strong square to Chiron. And not as much to Uranus, but it's there as well. So Moon in Virgo. Okay, so I have my Moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo is so critical, so picky, so exacting, so organized, right? Moon in Virgo is like constantly inwardly annoyed. You might not know how annoyed they are about everything that's not right, but they are annoyed by everything that is just not right. You know, like they will notice everything. Moon in Virgo notices everything. They may not say everything depending on their sun sign and their ascendant, and you know, he's gonna be nice. You know, Elon Musk he's got the Cancer and the Mercury. He's gonna be, you know, the Venus influencing his ascendant. He's gonna appear nice, but believe me, he's very picky. He's very critical. He's got a very exacting eye. He knows exactly what he wants. He knows quality, and he's going to pick up on every detail. That's Moon in Virgo, and he's just gonna be like, "Look, this is not right. This is not." He may not say it like that, but in his mind, inwardly, he's just gonna be like, "You need to do better. You need to do better than this. This is not good enough." And the moon is exactly conjunct the third house. The third house. What point? Quadrant. Third quadrant. In Virgo. The third house deals with the intellect, right? So this is a very intellectual moon. Cusp. Sometimes words slip my mind. And it's also in the morning. I haven't even had my tea yet or coffee, but I like to make, I like, for some reason, I like to do these videos first thing in the morning. I don't know why. I'm kind of tired actually, but anyway, third house cusp. So this is strongly affecting, you know, making this moon very intellectual, right? So even though he's a Cancer sun, we're still saying like real strong intellect. Gemini ascendant, so Mercury is ruling his third house and his ascendant, and it's in the first house by quadrant. Second house by, if you're taking whole sign house. Which should also make his sun and Mercury in the second house by whole sign, but it's so close to the ascendant. It's really strongly influencing his first house, right? So yeah, so this is the ascendant lord and the third house lord in the first house, gaining dignity and also influenced by, so very intellectual, right? Like nobody can deny that. He did study at University of Pennsylvania, physics and economics, I think, or business. But he did not go get his master's degree or anything like that. So what else? Moon is ruling the, Moon is not ruling anything by quadrant, but it is the first house, the majority of the first house in the third house. So we're seeing a lot of signs of intellectual prowess. There's a sextile between Sun and Moon by 2 degrees. That's quite good. And Mercury. So Moon is aspecting its ruler, its dispositor. That's good. What else? So if we're looking at Venus as in the 12th house, Venus is ruling the 11th house and the 4th house. So 12th house here would indicate foreign countries, and he was born in South Africa and then moved to Canada, right? And so 4th house would be moving home to foreign lands. We know that. 11th house is hopes, wishes, dreams, but also career success, right? Career success in foreign lands. Okay. And yeah, that's quite obvious. He's a foreigner, right? He's an American now, but he was a Canadian, and before that, a South African. So again, we're seeing 12th house, first house influences. Both whole sign and quadrant work. They really do. So don't be stubborn and just be like, oh, only quadrant works or only whole sign house works. They both work. They both have influence. Okay. So yeah. Okay. What else? I left in part of fortune because I wanted to see if that had anything to do with his fortunes. It's conjunct Regulus. Although out of sign, it's still very, very close. I'm gonna, whoops. I'm just gonna expand this just so we can see how close it is. Regulus is 29 something, the heart of the lion, and then part of fortune is 1 degree, so a little over 1 degree this difference. Now, I don't know if that, I'm not an expert in part of fortune, to be honest. But I thought that that's interesting, and that might have something to do with it. What does have something to do with his fortune is South Node in the 2nd house in Leo, and then Sun in the 1st house, right? So second by quadrant, 2nd Lord in the 1st house. So the wealth is coming to him, right? South Node also shows what we came into this world with, what we're born with, and the 1st half of our life, especially up to age 42. And he's past that. But so family and wealth are 2 of the prominent things about 7th house, 2nd house, right? And he did grow up with money. Like some people say he grew up poor. No, his father was half owner of an emerald mine in South Africa. His father was a millionaire, right? He grew up with money. That's how he became rich. Like he started these businesses. By the way, 3rd house definitely has to do with business as well. So does 7th and 11th, but 3rd house does. And then they got bought out, and then like he used his father's money. I'm not sure. I just saw like some brief stuff and read some brief stuff. Like he started businesses. They weren't very viable, but they sold, and he made millions of dollars. And then through dubious means, he bought his way into Tesla, and then bought out the owner. You know, not very above boards or scrupulous means did he get to where he is, but he got to where he is. Like I said, I don't love the guy. I don't hate him. I think he's somewhere in between. I don't think he's evil. He's not exactly like Bill Gates, but he's not exactly like, some great humanitarian either. Somewhere in between. But anyway, we see this sign of wealth here with South Node and its ruler in the 1st house in Cancer. What else? Well, okay, so North Node's in Aquarius and conjunct Mars, and this is really, really interesting because Aquarius deals with technology. Aquarius is very futuristic, scientific, and Mars is very mechanical, technical, and physical. So what do we have? Electric cars. Okay, Mars and Aquarius, North Node. I mean, that's North Node is where we become obsessed, and it's not. North Node is the place where we become obsessed in a very materialistic, worldly way, and even through dishonest means, we get what we want. And so that's very telling. Like Tesla is Mars and Aquarius, and then North Node indicates like just getting there by any means necessary, right? 8th house also by quadrant is about digging underground, and he also has the boring company which digs tunnels for the elites, so for their elite bunkers, digging tunnels. That's 8th house. So he's combining 8th house and Aquarius, which is like 11th house. So like Aquarius would be more like outer space, so SpaceX and technology, so like the implants, the Neuralink, and then sorry, did I say 8th house or Aquarius? Aquarius is like the outer space technology. 8th house is like the deep underground stuff. So it's both these things. They're very physical, right? Mars, electric cars is Aquarius. Mars is the physicality of the cars. This is so telling, so accurate. It's like amazing. 8th house Aquarius, North Node conjunct Mars. I mean, that's everything, right? Everything for Elon Musk. Right, and then where's the ruler? Okay, so we have Saturn and Uranus. Uranus is conjunct the IC, which is, whatever is conjunct the IC is also directly looking at the MC. So that does have a bearing on the career, right? And that's also squaring his Sun and Mercury. It's right in between them. So it's influencing both the Sun and Mercury, Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of invention, of out-of-the-box thinking, of brilliance, of genius, of rebellion. All right, so that is influencing, again, it's influencing his Sun and Mercury. It's also influencing his MC. And Mars is ruling the MC, right? And Mars is, the dispositor of Mars is Uranus, right? So we got this connection. So Uranus is very influential. Chiron is very influential. And I also left Eris in there, which I don't normally do, but because it's conjunct the MC, as well as Chiron, and then squaring the Sun and Mercury, and then opposite Uranus. So that is influential. And I know that as a child, he was very awkward, and he was bullied a lot. And I know that when I saw him on SNL, and he says that he has Asperger's syndrome. By the way, I've been told I have Asperger's syndrome. I don't know. I've never received a diagnosis, but who knows? Whatever. Not bothered by it. But that's Chiron square. First of all, it's Chiron conjunct the MC being very public, right? This Chiron is the wounded reject, the wounded healer, but also a reject. Chiron initially is a reject and wounded. And so that's this, this weirdo. He's kind of a weirdo, especially when he's younger, right? He's putting that out into the public. And it's squaring his Mercury, so his intellect, so Asperger's, right? It's creating a very unusual sort of like wounded intellect, even though Chiron is not bad, it's just difficult. It shows wounds, rejection, being weird, out of the box, not one of the crowd. But Chiron becomes a healer and a teacher and a wise person, also an astrologer. So Chiron, in its higher form, is a very evolved being. But it goes through this very painful, wounded reject sort of phase in the beginning, early on especially. So that is very telling for Elon Musk. He has that strongly. And then Eris is a planet similar to Pluto, although more dense, and then farther out than Pluto. Eris takes about like 500 some years, where Pluto takes like 250, 220, I don't know, 200 some years. Details, who cares? Who cares? Details, schmeetails. Yeah, so Eris is the feminine aspect of Mars, but where it's very different from Mars is that Mars is a very big, close planet, and Eris is very far out there. So it's very different from Mars in that it is very powerful. It's similar to Pluto. So we don't really know a lot about the astrological influence of Eris, but what we can say is that if it's in a prominent place, if it's not prominent, I would ignore it. If it's prominent, I would say, okay, that means something. The farther the planet out, the more powerful they become. Like Pluto is very small and far out, but it's extremely powerful, right? And especially if it's prominent in the chart, it really shows something, right? Like I just did Vladimir Putin's chart, and he has Pluto conjunct the MC, conjunct South Node. That's very prominent. So he's very Plutonic, right? Well, Elon Musk is very strongly influenced by Eris, especially in his career. It shows very powerful careers. What is showing? Very powerful public image, because Eris is there. Feminine god of war. So the feminine god of war means that it's war is there, but it's leaning towards peace, it's wanting to resolve things in a more evolved way, because the feminine aspect is more about peace and the creative side of things, and love, and war is a last result. War is not always bad, because sometimes we have to go to war to achieve the ultimate good, right? But the feminine side of war is like, no, we don't want war, we want peace. We will use war as a last result once all our options are exhausted, but we don't want to go to war. That's the feminine god of war. The masculine god of war is like, we'll go to war if you don't do what I want. Like, it's very aggressive. And so that's why Mars is very close and personal and young. It's like an immature planet. And then Eris is very far out there. And it's a very mature, old planet. Remember I said, like, Neptune, Uranus, Pluto are like the grandparents, while Eris is also like the grandparent, maybe even a great-grandparent. So it's very old and mature. Right. And so we got Chiron, Eris, Uranus, Sun, Mercury, all in a T-square together in this tense aspect, involving his career and his sun and his intellect and his ascendant, his first house. So it's making him weird, but it's also giving him very powerful, inventive career. Pluto's in the third house. And what is Elon Musk known for? A controversial tweets, right? Social media, Moon in Virgo, and Pluto in Virgo in the third house. This is tweets. Third house, we want to talk, where would we see like tweets, like Facebook's? Social media a lot of times is 11th house, but like for tweets, I think that's third house, because it's so like instant. It's so like quick, light, instant. Mostly social media I look for 11th house, but like for this I would say third house, because communication, and it's just like his tweets are always controversial, right? He's gotten into trouble for his tweets. He's gotten sued, I think, for his tweets. I know he's tweeting about Dogecoin and Bitcoin, and it caused all sorts of chaos in the markets. That's Pluto. Pluto is powerful, creative, and destructive all at the same time, and his moon's also there. So he's very influential in his communications, right? Especially his quick communications. Twitter, I think, is third house. Fifth house has Scorpio, Jupiter, and Neptune's actually in Sagittarius, 0 degrees Sagittarius. So, and that's opposite Saturn. So fifth house deals with children, education, playfulness. So with Jupiter here, he has a very solid education, right? Definitely, and he did. It also shows Jupiter in the fifth house is very playful, Jupiter in the fifth house can actually be a teacher of children. With Saturn and Gemini, this brings a very scientific quality to it, because it's opposite. Neptune is very expansive. This is very creative, scientific axis. Saturn is actually I would say it's in the 12th house, because it's conjuncting the 12th house cusp in Gemini. So what do I think about this? It's giving him very creative, scientific imagination. Saturn is ruling. It's not really ruling the seventh. It's not really ruling the seventh house at all. But this would be the eighth house. This would be the eighth house by whole sign house, but it's co-ruler of the eighth house cusp by quadrant. And eighth and 12th is actually quite good, because it shows, it's water house and to water house, connecting water house, connecting water house. So that in Vedic in Vedic astrology, that's quite good. It shows, so it's a yoga. It shows some beneficial qualities. Saturn in the 12th house, I don't think is very bad. And because it's ruling the eighth, it has eighth house influence. I don't think this is gonna. I don't think it's problematic. Sometimes Saturn, we see Saturns that cause a lot of difficulty. This potentially could show difficulty in foreign lands, but he has Venus there, which I think is beneficial. I think overall, it's not. I don't think his Saturn is giving him too much problems because also it's being aspected by Jupiter. Yeah. So that's my take on it. He doesn't have too much negative karma there, and he runs into lawsuits and things. Twitter's suing him. He's had lawsuits in the past, but he gets by. He gets away with it. And I think that's because Saturn is ruling the eighth house cusp here. Capricorn although it's in the seventh house by quadrant, is also eighth house, whole sign house. And so I think that's why. Yeah, let's look at oh yeah, the additional tables. So he doesn't have any stationary planets. Jupiter and Neptune are retrograde. I think he does have children, but I don't know much about his children. I think his daughter wants to disown him, so that's interesting. His Mercury is out of bounds, so that shows his intellect is just like extreme, like just thinking way outside the box. Out of bounds planets, I tend to think have a Uranian feel to them. So he is quite Uranian with his North Node in Mars in Aquarius, Uranus conjunct the IC, square Sun and Mercury, and then out of bounds Mercury. Definitely, very unusual type mind, unusual thinking. Very creative. Jupiter and Neptune in the fifth house. Well, Neptune, arguably, is in the sixth house. So Neptune in the sixth house would show very unusual work, career. Not career, 10th house more career, but like daily schedule. Like he's probably, like, if you followed him around the house and observed what he did day to day, it would probably be very Neptunian, just like unusual, just completely absurd, like no schedule at all. Just Neptune in Sagittarius is very adventurous, just very like, think about Star Wars. Like when I think about Neptune in Sag, I have Neptune in Sag, 1976 is when I think Star Wars came out, 76 or 77. So like this outer space adventure, that's Neptune in Sagittarius. It was like Sagittarius is adventure, Neptune is like just like limitless, boundaryless expanse. So like like the whole universe, like galaxies and space and just dream worlds, and so like an adventure into like the great expanse, like Star Trek, Star Wars, that type of thing. So that's like his daily schedule. It's just like just completely blown to pieces. But Jupiter's definitely in the fifth house. So Jupiter in Scorpio. So Scorpio is problematic for Jupiter for any sign. I mean, because Scorpio is creation, destruction, and Jupiter retrograde. So, I mean, Jupiter brings benefits. Scorpio kind of pulls that luck, the good luck with Jupiter down. So, children and play and fun, but like, it's kind of got this weight to it from Scorpio. This like, okay, sometimes there's going to be crisis. You're going to have fun. You're going to have kids. You're going to have, you know, good times, but there's going to be crisis there too, and you know, death and rebirth and psychology and all that. And then Pluto's trine Scorpio, so sorry, sextile. Forgive me. So there's, you know, Pluto's influence, even though that's a good aspect, the sextile, and they're quite as, still Pluto's Pluto, Scorpio, Scorpio. But that's a nice, I mean, that's a nice, you know, Jupiter's influencing is Pluto, Pluto's influencing Jupiter. That's adding a really nice, a lot of power, you know, to his Jupiter, and Jupiter to Pluto, you know. Bring Jupiterian things to his third house and Plutonic things to his fifth house. It's just adding dimension and depth and power and strength. And so anyway, I mean, I think Elon Musk has a, you know, obviously he's doing things right, and what do I want to say? Overall, look, I think he's there's question whether, like, some people say he's just a fake, he's a phony. I can understand that, but I think he's like a really intelligent guy, and I think he okay, say, like, he does some unscrupulous things. Eighth house and Scorpio are definitely, and Cancer to some degree, are known for, in 12th house, you know, there can be criminal elements with all the water, especially the water signs and houses, because they hide in secrecy, they go underground, and then North Node in the 8th house, I'm always dubious of. It just seems like it's not, because North Node is not very above boards anyway, and 8th house is kind of like, you know, potential for, you know, other people's money, like, you know, power and control and other people's money. And so there's potential for, you know, some not so great thing. I want to say criminality, but not necessarily, right? It could just be like digging holes underground for the rich elites, which is like, man, really, Elon Musk? That's what you want to do? But he's also, you know, he also exposed Twitter for what it is, which is like just a bunch of fake bots. Anyway, I think I've said enough. Super interesting guy. Would I be able to guess that he would be the world's richest man, at least on the list, at least on paper? No. But definitely I would say that he definitely has some strong second house and 8th house, you know, destiny coming towards him for sure, and very intellectual, and generally likable guy, and success in foreign lands and all that, and very powerful career. I think Eris probably has a lot more to do with it than we realize. I think we just don't know enough about Eris, or at least I don't. But anyway, that's Elon Musk, and this was fun. I like reading charts. It really helps me to understand the person better and helps me to learn and grow in astrology. So that's it for now, guys. If you want to book a reading, email me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. Hit the like and subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be notified when I do more videos. So until next time, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.